Hi, this is Lohit Jigbani. We are at VC Circle Healthcare Summit. I am here with Mr. Vishal Bali, the Group CEO of Fortis Healthcare. Mr. Bali, thank you so much for joining me here. So, I'll start with the first question. The most recent thing that's happened is the divesting of assets that Fortis has done in Vietnam and Australia. It was earlier looking to expand on an international platform, and now with this, is the strategy changing a little? Are you now going to focus on India? Would that be the core strategy?
Yep. So between 2011 and 12, almost towards the end of 2010, we did a lot of inorganic growth outside of India. Okay. Starting from Australia, New Zealand to Vietnam to Hong Kong, Sri Lanka, Dubai. So we created a very large international footprint of the company. With assets which were leading assets in each one of those markets. We have now decided to consolidate our presence in India. Okay. We currently have 4,000 beds functional in India. We have a capacity of 10,000 beds. So we believe that our capital is best employed in India in terms of the kind of growth that we are seeing in this market. So very clearly the company's strategy now is India focused, right, and to grow the entire enterprise in India.
Right. But just about a year back, there was this Fortis's official plan for its expansion was more international, and just after 1 year, it's more domestic. What made the company change its mind and be more domestic?
So Lohit, I don't think it was international or India. It was just at that given point in time, we saw an opportunity in the international space. We have never taken our eyes off India, even while the international footprint was getting created. In fact, during the time that the international footprint was getting created, we launched our biggest hospital in India, which is the Fortis Memorial Research Institute in Gurgaon. Right. And we also created 2 or 3 other hospitals. Okay. So it was, we have never taken our eyes off, right, the Indian operation and the growth opportunity in India. Mm-hmm. It is just that we were pursuing a parallel opportunity on the international side, right, which so now has been, so there is a relook on strategy. I think every company goes through the process of trying to reevaluate its priorities, and very clearly our priority right now states that we should be India centric.
So what made you focus on India? What made you change your mind and say, no, we will not expand, or we will not be an international player. Let's focus on India right now. What made you do that?
I think there are a couple of opportunities out there. One was very clearly when the Religare Health Trust got listed in Singapore, mm-hmm, which is the arm which fundamentally in the future is going to help us in terms of infrastructure creation. So that's a business trust which got listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. That enables us to grow faster in India because RHT is going to invest in our real estate and also in the civil part of the business. So that accelerates the process of higher growth and creating more infrastructure here in India. So that clearly was an opportunity which helped us to reevaluate the fact that we could grow more aggressively in India in terms of adding more hospitals. And because there was an inherent bed capacity which was sitting in India, it just made the entire thing that much more viable. Right. So that is the reason why the India-centric approach.
So what is the plan now for India? What are you looking at?
The plan for India very clearly is, as I rightly said, that there are 4,000 operational beds. Mm-hmm. The system has a capacity of 10,000 beds. So we will, over a period of time, ramp up this capacity. Okay. This year itself, we've already launched our hospital in Gurgaon. Mm-hmm. Towards the end of this fiscal year, we will be launching 2 more hospitals, one in Chennai and the other one in Ludhiana. Mm-hmm. So this year itself, we would be launching almost close to 1,500 beds. Okay. So we will continue to grow down this path in terms of adding more number of beds, bolt-on beds, which are more within the infrastructure that we already have, and the opportunity of creating new greenfield hospitals. So very, very clearly it is going to be centric towards growth in India.
Would Fortis be looking at any acquisitions?
I think Fortis in the past has done a lot of inorganic growth. and inorganic growth is a very inherent part of our enterprise. So, Fortis did the Escorts acquisition, did the Muller acquisition, did the Wockhardt acquisition, and then inorganically grew a lot outside of India. So inorganic growth is very inherent from the Fortis perspective. So as and when, we will continue to evaluate opportunities and see.
What plans for SRL? There was a talk that SRL would look at going for an IPO, not going for an IPO. What are your plans with SRL?
SRL is, SRL has been growing very well the last couple of quarters. So we've had very good growth in SRL. Their margins are moving up. There is a potential of SRL to go towards an IPO. Nothing which is there right now on the cards. So as and when the opportunity does come up, we will see.
Also, Fortis had a considerable amount of debt, and you've been raising. So you've divested assets and you've raised capital. How comfortable are you with the debt right now?
Our debt equity position is actually very healthy right now compared to what it was about a year back. About a year back, we were sitting at about 1.6 debt equity. Today, we are at 0.5, 0.6. So we have reasonably cut down our debt within the company, and so we are in a very healthy situation on a debt equity position.
Right.
And that we have done through raising of capital. We have done through these divestments. So fundamentally, we have ensured that our balance sheet is very healthy.
For a huge group like Fortis, how badly does it hurt when the macroeconomic situations are not working right?
I think the macroeconomic situations are for everybody, right? It's the macroeconomic situation right now from the healthcare perspective is more about the currency fluctuation that we are seeing.
Exactly. So that was my question. That was what I was going to come to also.
So I think from that context, it is equally an issue for everyone.
Right.
And in healthcare, it is also an issue fundamentally because 99% of the consumables that you use are imported. Right. And none of that is manufactured here in India. Mm-hmm. So that itself creates an issue in terms of the import costs going up and significantly. At the same time, we have issues of affordability and accessibility in India. So we need to balance the two out and we need to ensure, so that puts that much more pressure on healthcare enterprises like us and everybody else in the healthcare industry to see as to how the balance can be done.
But also rupee fluctuation so the way I see it, inflation is something which could be a major challenge for the group. And the other is rupee fluctuation, especially when you have private equity players who have invested in the group. So how much of a concern is that?
The rupee fluctuation is more from an import cost perspective, from our perspective. And and everything has happened so suddenly, and we don't really know whether it's going upwards or it's going downwards. So the volatility is the one which really becomes a question mark. Because if you're seeing a stable currency, so even if you're seeing stability at 60 rupees or 62 rupees, you know that this is what the current stable currency looks like, and then you can manage your entire supply chain accordingly. So the issue today is the volatility of the currency, and I do hope that it now begins to find stability, because at the end of the day, the biggest cost that we have today is our consumable cost, which is all dollar related. So that is the one which causes too much of fluctuation in terms of our input costs.
What are the major challenges in terms of management? When you manage a hospital chain or a healthcare chain which is so vast, what kind of challenges are you facing right now, or are you tackling with right now?
I think the biggest challenges that one faces is there is a great opportunity out there, and which opportunities does the company sort of look for? Which are the opportunities to drop? Secondly, I think the industry has a huge constraint around people and around talent. So therefore, that's another area that the industry has grown much faster than the talent behind it. So I think one of the big challenges is to also see how talent from other sectors can come into healthcare and can help the healthcare sector to improve and grow faster.
When do you think you would look at operations outside India again? Or you look at expansion outside India again?
We have operations outside of India. I think as of right now, it is India focused. The capital deployment is all happening in India. Okay. It's difficult to say when one will do what but very clearly our capital focus today is to be deployed in India.
Sure. But you've divested some of your assets outside India, and you still do have assets outside India.
Yeah.
What is the strategy? How is the strategy looking like for you right now?
No, I think if you see the assets that we have outside of India are more in the hospital space, and so very clearly, as far as we are concerned right now, that is those are assets which were deployed some time back. So we continue to have our asset in Mauritius. We have our investment in Sri Lanka, in Lanka hospitals. We have the hospital in Singapore. So I think from our context, there is an asset base which is currently there, and it will continue to be there.
How are you looking at single specialty segment? Some multi-specialty hospital chains like Manipal has invested in IVF. What is your strategy? Fortis has some amount of single specialty. It does dabble with single specialty, but A, are you looking at any kind of investments in a company, or B, are you looking at any space within single specialty that particularly excites you?
So I think Fortis has actually set the trend for single specialties because Fortis Escorts is a single specialty cardiac institution. The hospital in Bangalore, which was acquired from Wokhart, is a single specialty cardiac institution. Then we have within Fortis, we have La Femme, which is a single specialty mother and child hospital. So Fortis has had a history of having single specialty institutions while continuing to be in the multi-specialty space. So I think we've sort of had both these opportunities which we have seen together, and that is worked very well for the company.
The promoters of the company, Mr. Malvinder and Shivinder Singh, and while they are promoters of other companies as well, how do they work from a management point of view? How hands-on are they? Because some of the companies they've sort of given to other people to run. In some companies, they're more aggressively involved. How does it work for Fortis? How hands-on are they when it comes to management running the?
I think it's a question of hands-on or hands-off. Both of them are very passionate about the company, and they continue to be involved in the company in terms of the running of the enterprise. And I think that only helps, because when at a promoter level, when they are passionate about what the company is pursuing, then it also helps in the growth of the enterprise.
Right. How are you tackling the challenge in competition from other large hospital chains? How are you trying to differentiate yourself from the others?
I think if you see what Fortis has done, and that's exactly what you need to really focus on. If you see the growth of Fortis over the last decade vis-a-vis many of its competitors, I think that itself answers the question that a company that has moved from a single hospital to 65 hospitals in a decade's time has actually surpassed many in the competitive space. So from that extent, as an enterprise, the enterprise has grown. It has grown competitively extremely well. It has taken key positions. It has grown dynamically through the inorganic route. So I think from a competitive standpoint, Fortis has shown by becoming a leader in the healthcare delivery space that it is very well poised to take on any competition as far as the healthcare delivery sector is concerned.
From a healthcare perspective, what macro scenario actually worries you? Where do you think that Indian healthcare sector is lacking?
I think the healthcare sector in India is poised for some great times in terms of the opportunity that is there. I think from a macro perspective, we need to ensure the growth of the health insurance sector, because the third-party payment mechanism is a key component of creating future growth, and also for creating affordability and accessibility, which is one of the key issues which revolves around Indian healthcare. So I think that is one of the key drivers, and how that grows aggressively is going to be a key driver of what happens on the delivery side. Okay. So I think that is one area that one needs to really focus on and grow and enable that growth.
And what works for the healthcare sector in India, according to you?
I think the sheer opportunity, the fact that private Indian healthcare enterprise has evolved so dramatically well over the last 2.5 decades, that as a country of 1.2 billion people, we spend just about 1.5% on the public side, and the remaining 3.5 to 4% is spent on the private side, just goes to show the opportunity that has been created by the private healthcare delivery enterprise in the country, and that just goes to show that it is working very well. So I think from that context, it is important to look at it from the context of how we can evolve and evolve it faster and grow the private enterprise faster so that the citizens of this country can get and hope to receive better healthcare.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Bali, and best of luck for Fortis.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. Thanks a lot.